First off, don't get into your head about what other people think about what you might have to share. Just, don't let yourself be in your head about I'm bothering people. It's just a story you're making up in your head. Focus on adding value and caring about people, and you'll never be rejected.
Hi, I'm Carla Higgins, and this is the Double Duty Agent Podcast. I am so glad you're here. Each week, we get together and we explore the stories of successful double duty real estate agents. And from their stories, you can find the solutions to overcoming your challenges and the keys to unlocking your success. Are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome. Oh my gosh. Okay. We are taking excited on my part to a whole new level today because I have got Steve Schlueter with me. And if you do not recognize that name, I think you'll recognize what I'm going to tell you next. He is one of two developers of Never-Ending Referrals and the DTD2 System. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So Steve, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carla. Looking forward to pouring into those double duty agents out there. I was one when I started, so I get it.
That's where I want to start today, Steve. Why don't you tell me how you got started in real estate?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I'll give you a short version, but honestly, as far as education, I have what's called an SD. Carla, you know what the SD stands for?
I do not.
Yeah, it's not science degree or anything like that. It's street degree.
Street degree. Okay.
It's that school of hard knocks. And at 23, I was working in kind of lower management in a big retail grocery chain here in Central Texas. And I just knew that this wasn't my future. And I'm 23 years old and I want to do something different. And I just by chance had taken a real estate class. And when I got into real estate, Carla, it was a really challenging market. The Board of Realtors in Austin, Texas, sometimes we hear Gary Keller talk about this time. It was the early days of Keller Williams. The Board of Realtors had just gone from 5,000 agents 2 years prior to now was 1,800 agents.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Typical, days on market for the homes that we're selling was about 170 days.
Yeah, this seems like a really good time to start a new career.
Great time, 23 years old. Thank God I was stupid. I don't know, but I decided to do something different. I got in real estate, and
you didn't know any different.
Didn't know any different. Thank goodness. I did start off as a double duty agent. I was still working at the grocer, and yet what hit me about 4 months in, and I will say that I did have some savings set aside. So. I had a foundation to start from. And as I leaned into this, about probably 4 months into my career, I said, I've got to go make the commitment to full time on this because I felt like my job was costing me money. And because I could see the potential in it, I hadn't experienced it yet, but what I was feeling was that if I don't lean into it, it's never going to get started at the level that will replace my job. And of course, my job, I wasn't making that much money, so it wasn't a big risk. And 23, you're young and you don't have a lot of commitments and bills. And yet I dove in. And now I'll tell you, the first year, my gross income was really gross.
I always wondered if that's how that term came to be. Just kidding.
Yeah, gross income. It was very little. In fact, at the time when, now at this point, I've got a wife at home pregnant with my first daughter. I'm starting to get the pressure. Now I'm about 12 months in. I'm starting to get the pressure to go get the job. Going real well. And I happen to be driving down a road called Jollyville Road in Austin, Texas. And down the street, I could see the sign for the grocer where I used to work. And all of a sudden, I hatched a plan, Carla.
Okay.
And the plan, I got excited because I had a plan, because I really wanted, again, I told you I have a street degree. And I'm going, how am I going to keep this going? I don't have anything to fall back on. I don't want to go back to working at a grocery store. But I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there and put in a job application. And I'm putting an application to stock groceries at night from 11 at night to 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go home and I'll take a nap till about 9:30. Then I'll hit the real estate office, do real estate all day. Maybe about 6:30, go home, have supper, take a nap, and do it all over again. Go do groceries the night before, right? And I'm going, okay. And all of a sudden, I'm getting excited because I'm going to keep this going and figure it out, right? And so, Carla, as I get closer to the grocery store, and I turn my blinker on, I get in the left turn lane, and I'm waiting to turn. Magically, there was a lot of traffic, and I'm sitting there waiting for traffic to pass. And all of a sudden, 2 words hit me. Can I share the 2 words with you?
I want to hear these. Yes.
Hell no.
I love it.
Hell no.
Oh.
I said, you made a decision that you were going to make this a career and that you were going to be in real estate. And I had to do an honest assessment, Carla. I said, have I really, if I'm willing to work that hard to stay in real estate, am I working that intentional and hard in real estate?
Yeah.
And I went that night to my wife and I said, give me 60, 90 days. And if I haven't figured it out, I'm going to step away from this. And yet I'm going to go to the top producer in the office tomorrow. I'm going to have a conversation with her. I'm going to figure this out. And I did. I went to the top agent the next day. I said, I got very transparent and said, I'm struggling. Here's where I'm at. I'm in deep weeds. I need to make this work. Help me. And what do I need to do? Well, long story short, she gave me some tips. Within a couple of weeks, I secured a listing that was 3 times the average sales price in our market at the time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, got it. It went under contract cash, closed within about 10 days, went under contract cash, closed another 2 weeks later, and it was game on. Now, I say it was game on.
So you won your 90-day plan.
I got my 90-day plan. Now, by the way, that just kind of got me caught up.
Uh-huh.
And what it really gave me, Carla, was this dangerous thing called hope, right?
Hope. And maybe a little confidence.
What's that?
A little confidence too, maybe?
The confidence to stay with it,
mm-hmm.
right? And then, okay, now what next? Now, the mentor, the person who said, Steve, here's what you need to do, she then said, now, Steve, you need to go to this conference with me.
Okay.
And it's in New Orleans. And I was with Century 21 at the time. And
okay.
21 regional convention. She goes, you need to go to this. And I said, Jerry, I just got like a little bit of money and I need to really hang on to every dollar.
I'm going to end up on another 90-day plan if I do this.
Yeah, it's like, now she wants me to spend money and I'm going, I just got some money. And so, Carla, what I did is I gave all the same reasons that people say, well, I can't go to family reunion or I can't go to, to Bold, you can't take Never-Ending Referrals, whatever it is, because I don't have the money. And I gave her all the reasons. She said, Steve, I'll even share my hotel room with you. Now, by the way, she's much older than I am, so it's like, she said, you just need to get to New Orleans. And I got a cheap flight, got there. And I came back from that because I learned some things that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I came back from that in the next 12 months, did 42 transactions.
42?
42.
I would say you learned a few more than a few things.
Yeah. And actually it wasn't much. It was just, I learned how to deal with the market of the moment, what the opportunity of the market. At that time, just think about that market. There was an abundance of expired listings.
Oh, I bet there was. Yeah.
And I was able to throw appointments together with expireds. I got the right conversation, the right skills, and it changed everything.
And that's how it all started.
That's how it all started. And then,
I love that.
And yet, I think laying some foundation, you talked about DTD2 and Never-Ending Referrals,
mm-hmm.
is there's probably a lot of folks out there that are a lot like I was at the time. Carla, I'm behaviorally, I'm a very high assertive behavioral style.
Okay.
Now I'll let you explain what that means. So what's the nature of the high assertive?
Well, we're talking about the disc, right? You're jumping all in the disc. So assertive.
A high D.
A high D. It's exactly what you said it is, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna take charge and drive the car.
Yeah. And so like many of you guys out there, we come to this thing called a database. It's weird how many of us, we'll make a cold call, or we'll go sit in an open house, or we'll talk to strangers, but we won't talk to the people in our database.
Yeah.
And the first 4 years, pretty much all my business was expireds and for sale by owners, because it was one of those things where I could go out and make something happen today.
Immediate results.
I talked to was in the real estate space. But thank God I listened to my mentor, because one of the things that she said early on, she said, Steve, just be friends with all your clients and you'll be all kinds of referrals. Now, let me share with you, as a high assertive, a high D, that gave me anxiety.
Yeah, not very social.
No, not social.
No.
My response, internal response was, I got 4 friends. I don't need any more friends. I need some buyers and sellers, dang it, right?
They aren't buying or selling.
Yeah, and yet I saw that she had this kind of business where just business came to her. And, I said, if I'll spend these first few years of my career being transactional, building a book of business, there will be the day that most of my business could be referral based or repeat based. And thank God I listened to her. I did have the same struggle that many of our agents have out there, is I'd rather just call an expired, or maybe even a cold call than call my database, because me having to be friends with everybody, I mean, shoot me. I don't want to do
natural.
That. Not natural.
Not natural.
But here's what I learned, Carla. About 4 years into my career, there was a gentleman named Howard Britton, and he happened to be in our town. Remember Howard?
I do not, but I've heard the stories.
Yeah, amazing guy. And Howard shared how one of his star power stars positioned herself as the trusted advisor. And I realized, I can be that person. I can't be everybody's friend, because that wouldn't be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps a lot of us from engaging with the people we know, especially if we're high assertives. Either we feel like we're going to, the high social person feels like they're bothering them or they're taking something from them. The high assertive just feels like it's not authentic. I don't really want to ask about Fluffy and their vacations, or I don't know how to have that conversation authentically, right? And so, but what I learned from Howard that day was that being everybody's best friend won't work for me. Being their trusted advisor, that's a space I can occupy. And for your double duty agents out there, this is something they can work to start building that I think will get them more kitchen tables. And we could certainly go in that direction. But yeah, so that's kind of the story of how we got there. And then it went on to over 100 transactions a year, a career in leadership as a team leader, regional director. I own a couple of market centers in the Austin area. And it all started right there.
It all started right there. And it really started with a leap, right? You had a little leap of faith at the very beginning. And then it started with a commitment, right? We've heard before, Dennis O'Brien. I don't know if you know Dennis O'Brien. He was a MAPS coach as well. And we can talk about that. But Dennis was on my podcast, and he made a comment about the word decide. And once you make a decision, that's your hell no moment, right? Once you make a decision, all other options go away. They all go away. Right. So that's what happened here. I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's a great message. Is sometimes you get in, and there was a lot of risk in doing that.
Even more than you had, a little more risk than 5,000 to whatever you said, 1,800 agents. Like that's a lot of people choosing to get out. Of course, that also sounds to me like an awful lot of opportunity to have some market share.
Turned out to be a huge opportunity.
Now I know you mentioned you were at another brokerage, and then somewhere along the line you caught somebody's eye.
Well, it's actually went from from Century 21 to 10 years with Remax. I was one of the Remax agents in Texas before I got courted by a guy named Gary Keller. to be a team leader for one of his off-market centers in Austin, Texas. So this would have been, I'm going to date all of this now, this would have been 1998.
Okay.
In fact, Keller Williams at that time was only 3,600 agents.
3,600 agents. And still Keller Williams International, I understand.
It's still Keller Williams International. We did have an office in Canada, I think, at the time. So
wow. Okay.
First office in Canada might have been up there. And so spent 4.5 years working for Gary as a team leader, and then went on to a regional director role and market center ownership and leadership coach, bold coach, all that kind of fun stuff, Carla.
Yes. Okay. I want to talk about bold too, but I want to stick with Never-Ending Referrals first.
Yeah.
So tell me how that came to be when you decided that was what, because I know we need it, because it had a huge impact in my career when I was a double duty agent or dual career agent, and I was thinking I really wanted to transition, but I needed a boost, and that's what Never-Ending Referrals gave to me. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Well, and yes, and here's one thing I want to do to preface this. What I'm going to share with you is not something that's just a double duty agent challenge. It's an all agent challenge. And I'm going to take you back in time a little bit to 2008.
Okay.
And 2008.
Do we have to go there?
What's that?
Do we have to go there? That hurts.
Well, why do we not like going there, Carla?
Yes. Well, that was a big challenge. I wasn't in real estate then. I was in commercial real estate. So yes, for me, it's really painful too.
Yeah, this was the Great Recession, right? The Great Recession is on. Real estate's taking a beating, and it's and Gary has written the shift book, and he has, it's how do we're about a year into the shift. In fact, it's September 11th, 2008. I'm at the Marriott Chicago O'Hare, and it's myself and Tony DeCello. Now, Tony DeCello, for you guys, you probably don't know who Tony is. He's like the elite coach in the industry for decades. He's retired now. And yet Tony was charged with taking the shift book tour on the road. And I was his, I guess we'll call it understudy. If for some reason.
What a gift.
Yeah. If he couldn't get to a location or whatever, I was backing him up. And so we're in the Marriott Chicago, and we've got 700 people in the room, Carla.
Okay.
And
they all need help.
What's that?
They all need your help.
Well, they need a lot of help. They were scared. I mean, it was a tough time. And we get to the afternoon, and we're talking about your database. And Tony asked the question of the audience. He said, how many of you, by standing up, are touching your database 28 to 33 times a year? Now, MREA at the time was 33 touch, right? And he said, please stand. Well, Carla, you want to guess what percentage of the room stood up?
I'm guessing it was really small.
It was about 15%.
15%. Okay, that's smaller than I thought. Oh,
well, we looked at each other and going, that's not good.
Were you surprised? That's surprising.
Well, here's what really surprised me. We were astonished, actually. We looked at each other and going, and then he said, remain standing. And he says, I want you to remain standing if in those 28 to 33 touches is at least a quarterly conversation, voice to voice or face to face. And otherwise, sit down. Left standing was only 3%.
I am not surprised. That does not surprise me.
Left standing was 3%.
3.
And now here's the scary part of this. It wasn't one room. We tested this room after room after room, month after month, unfortunately, year after year. And this is how we coined it a crisis. We said, this is a crisis in our industry. If our agents aren't having these most important conversations, they're missing out on so much opportunity. Now, let's remember now, I'm a market center owner. Now, I came back and pulled this in my own market centers, and it was 3 to 5%. And I want you to think about this as an owner of a market center and a teacher, and I'm going, if I was the principal, Carla, if you were the principal of a school,
and 3% were doing math,
they were passing math or basic English. What kind of school do you have?
I don't have a job.
You ought to be fired, right?
Yes.
And I'm going, I need to be fired as an OP if this is all that's happening with our agents. And this was an industry big problem.
Oh, yeah. Because these are agents at Keller Williams. These are agents where they are getting really good training, available coaching. Like it's not that it wasn't there.
Well, for so long, people were taught to be transactional, Carla.
Yeah.
It was chase the business, chase this. And yet, while Gary Keller would be on the stage saying, your business is your database, your business is your database, your database.
There was no connection.
Yeah. And yet people were so caught up in the chase because they didn't know how to build a relational business. And so how this all began for Never-Ending Referrals is I looked at this, Carla, and I said, how do I start creating a conversation around my agents if not every day, every week, about doing the most important work? And this is where one day just DTD2 showed up as the solution. And it was this simple thought of, well, if we gamify, if you take this idea of just, if I call two people by last name in the alphabet, by last name, let's say the A and W week, I call my A's and W's. Every 13 weeks, I get through my database.
All of them. And then we get our 4 that we need in.
Yeah. And so there's my quarterly call. There's, 13 times 4 is 52, 2 times 13, it just, the math works.
It looks like it was destined to be.
It was destined to be. And so I said, so we're going to gamify the idea of how you do this. And it was really so that as leaders, we would keep having the conversation around you guys, the agents, to keep doing this. We said, because what you focus on expands. Now, let me share something else with y'all. Well, Carla, let's stay on that for a second, though.
Okay.
Any other thoughts there?
I have one other thought, and you may not know this, but Cody Melvin and I last week were having this conversation about DTD2, and not only does it gamify. I'm not a gamify person. Gamify doesn't light me up, but I am a list maker and a task doer. And what the DTD2 does is it lets me know on Monday, this is what I do today, right? I don't have to go figure out who to call. I don't have to go guess who it's going to be. It just gives me my checkbox, right? I'm going to call all my A's and then I'm going to call all my W's. And then you do a little bit more with that because you give me a system. So I don't have to go make up a system because not everybody, when I call them on Monday, are going to answer. And you give me the system and you give me what to say.
Yeah. Well, let me give you the secret sauce. So the secret sauce of all this, Carla, is something we call the 3 attempt approach. And the 3 attempt approach is say if it's A and W week, then I'm going to call everybody whose last name begins with A, begins with W. And let's say I've got 50 of those people, Carla. And on Monday, I can dial all 50 because only about 15 are going to pick up.
Yeah.
Now, the remaining 35, I leave a voicemail. Now, by the way, here's the pro tip. I hope y'all will write this down. The pro tip is that when you leave a voicemail, you're always making it okay for them not to call you back.
Yeah.
You're going, huh? Yeah, because think about it. Somebody ever leave you a message and you forget to call them and you forget to call them and then you feel guilty about it?
And then you feel guilty and then you don't want to call them because you feel guilty.
Yeah. And then you never want them to carry guilt around the relationship they have with you. So the voicemail might be, hey, Carla, Steve over at Keller Williams. Hey, just checking in with you. Had a quick business question for you. And also, you've been on my mind. Want to see how you're doing. Hey, I know you're probably really busy, the season being what it is. If you feel free to call back. Otherwise, don't worry. I'll reach out to you later in the week. Hopefully we'll connect. And that's it. You take responsibility. So practicing the 3 attempt approach works this way. If I had 50 and I connected with 15 on Monday, Carla, then on Wednesday, I'm going to reach out to the remaining 35 again. And let's say I connect with 15. They might be expecting my call now. The pickup rate goes up.
Yeah.
And so now I've talked to 30 of the 50. By the way, I went from 30% of that group to 60% of that group.
Yeah.
And then I don't leave a voicemail on those because I'm just doing what I said I was going to do.
What I said you could do. Yeah, they already got a voicemail.
I get through those quick. And then maybe on Thursday evening, a different time slot, I take the remaining 20 that are left that I haven't connected with, and I reach out to them. And maybe I connect with 10. And so now, using the 3 attempt approach, I have connected with 80% of that group versus just 1 attempt, 30%. And so, Carla, what's going to happen if I have more conversations?
No, we'll have more opportunities because we have more relationship building and more people remembering us.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, before we're done, is I've got a little conversation that I'll give them. It's the easiest to have conversation they can have with their database right now.
Ooh, free gift. It's Santa. You're the week of Christmas, Steve. So you're giving them a Christmas gift.
I'm feeling pretty jolly with that one. So there you go.
I'm gonna ask permission for something I've been doing all along, and you can tell me. As a coach, the agents that coach with me, and they're gonna go, oh yeah, there's the other piece, because I have them do a handwritten note to anybody they didn't talk to, and I have them do a handwritten note to anybody they did talk to.
I love that.
I just add that in. So with your permission, we're just gonna I include that as part of your system.
Yeah, I think that's quite usually what we encourage is like make some action. You could leave a voicemail on the end of the last one, or send a note, or send a text, or whatever it is. That's a perfect plus. And then so we look at this. Think about how you feel at the end of the week. Is Thursday, you've completed your work for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the disciplines around DTD2 are this. It's like something you said earlier is, I know what my schedule is, who I'm supposed to be calling. And so if I follow the plan, then on Thursday, I'm done. I did my most important work for the week.
Yep.
And then if I really honor the system, if they're in my contacts and they have that letter, I'm not going to get in judgment about whether they want to hear from me or whether they have something for me. If they're in my database, I'm calling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to get away from the bias or judgment around how that might go. And here's the great thing, Carla, is if I follow this, I only need 4 basic conversations a year.
Yeah.
Right.
And just absolutely.
Like quarter.
But then now we're 36, not 30, 28 or 30. We're 36 or more, but we got our 4 in. Now we got to figure the rest out.
Well, now you got to have your direct mail, email system going. That's the
neighborhood nurture.
Now, by the way, if you only just did the call, would you be better off than just sending the emails?
I would imagine so, because we know that's when we're most, in person is the best, but then phone calls right after that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get young agents that say this to me, Coach Carla, you're old. You don't understand. People don't talk on the phone anymore. They carry it around with them everywhere they go, but apparently they don't talk on it. Yeah. And so I always say this to them, right? You don't know if you're calling, do you not want to work with old people? Because if you text me and you expect me to do business with you without talking to you, I'm not going to. Yeah. Nor am I going to call you because you texted me. But if you call them and they don't want to talk to you and they really just want to text, what will they do? Yeah. Well, they'll text you. And now that's okay because you had a conversation. So that's what my take on that. Have you ever heard that? Anybody tell you that you're old?
Well, get over it, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, here's what I tell them. And I address that right up front in Never-Ending Referrals because the reality is you do have a generation where that's more their preference, and yet use text to your advantage to set up an actual conversation. Mm-hmm. So if you were in that age group or that generation, Carla, I would text you and say, hey, I've got a really important question for you. I'd love just to get 2 minutes on the phone. What's a good time to connect on a phone call? And I love that. Oh, I love that. I'll use text to set up a phone conversation. And, as long as you say, you just really, got an important couple of questions for you. Wondered if we could connect on a phone call and tighten it down time-wise. And, ask them when they'd prefer to have that conversation. Yeah. Can I share with you a story? Yes, please. Does it have to do with rescue dogs? Well, maybe. I believe the story is in there. It is in there. It's disguised differently. And yet, let me share with you a discovery I had. We talk about it in Never-Ending Referrals. And there was a lady named Barbara, and Barbara DeLamo. And I'm driving down the interstate, heading back to San Antonio from Austin. I live in San Antonio, Texas. And my phone rings, and on my dashboard, it says Barbara DeLamo. And it's a 210 area code, so I know it's San Antonio. And my response to my head is, who the heck is Barbara DeLamo? Now, we go through this thing, we deciding, am I going to press the button and take the call or not take the call?
Yeah.
But the name is showing up, and it's a 210 area code.
And we're real estate agents.
Yeah. And I'm going, I must know her, but because she's in my contacts, she's showing up here. So I press the button. Now, don't judge me here, guys. You probably do the same thing. And I pick up the call and go, well, hey, Barb, what's going on? Not having no idea
who she is.
This, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, well, hi. And I'm going to use her voice.
Okay.
She goes, well, hi, Steve. And I go, well, hey, Barbara, what's going on? How can I help you? She goes, well, hey, I was just calling to wish you happy birthday.
Oh.
And I go, well, thanks, Barbara. And by the way, my birthday, guys, is not for another 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And so
she was a little early. She wanted to be first.
And I said, well, Barbara, my birthday is not till the end of the month. And she goes, I know, I wanted to be the first one. Am I the first one? I knew it. I go, yeah, you're the first one. Or you're the last one. I'm not sure which one it is. You're the first one.
You're early or late.
And again, I'm going, who's this person? I don't know who they are. And then she goes on and she goes, well, Steve, I took Bold with you back in 2009 when the first one y'all did in San Antonio. Are you still doing Bold? And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. And she asked about Bold, where I'd been. And we had a brief conversation about Bold. And then she said, you had a girlfriend that lived in San Antonio. She sponsored one of our Bolds. What was her name? I said, Shelly. And she goes, you guys still together? I go, yeah, we sure are. And she asked about her, and then brief conversation, where's she working now, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, no, I know you were originally from the San Antonio area. You, in fact, talked about maybe moving back this way. Did you ever make the move? And I said, yeah, Barbara, I've been here 2.5 years. She goes, oh, man, I guess I missed on that one. I said, of course, Barbara, I'm an agent, represented myself. And the conversation, then she asked, well, what are you loving about San Antonio? She gave me a referral to a nice brunch place. We actually went to it. It was fantastic. And then she said, what kind of big plan? And then we talked about that for a minute. And then she said, what kind of big plans you and Shelly have coming up? And we talked about a trip to Egypt. And the whole conversation was 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
And
you got forwarded. Did it feel like Ford?
No, I did. I hung up the phone, and all of a sudden I realized, damn, I just got forwarded.
For agents that are listening that maybe aren't at Keller Williams, haven't done Ignite or Never-Ending Referrals, mm-hmm. or don't know what that is. So Ford is just asking family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. It's just a framework so that you can remember what you want to ask. And I have agents all the time that says, oh, that's too personal, or no, you got forwarded and didn't even realize it.
Didn't even realize. Well, and here's the interesting thing. So now, by the way, 6 minutes later, I went from who the hell is Barbara to feeling completely connected with Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, that's not the lesson. Here's the lesson.
The lesson was she didn't judge calling you.
Didn't. She hadn't, this was when that call came through, it was 2017. And so it'd been 8 years, 7-8 years since she'd been in a class with me.
Yeah. And well, maybe not. She must have done Never-Ending Referrals.
No, maybe. I don't think so, though. She should have. Okay. And she gave a great story for Never-Ending Referrals. But here's the rest of the story. When I hung up the phone, I noticed on the dashboard that it didn't say Barbara DeLamo. It said maybe Barbara DeLamo.
Maybe. Ooh.
Now, on an iPhone, that means they're in your correspondence.
Yeah.
And so when I got home, I said, I wonder how I've been communicating with Barbara, because it didn't ring a bell. And I pulled up my email.
Ah, you had her in your database.
Didn't have her in my database.
No.
Just pulled up her email, my email.
She's been messaging you?
She had been emailing me. I'd been getting an email from her every 3 weeks for 7 years.
Oh my goodness. And that was just the first time she connected on the phone.
First time she connected on the phone. Now, by the way, so what's the lesson?
Well, There's a lot of lessons in that, right? So you tell me your favorite, and then I'll see if I have
Well, I
more.
mean, mine is that she thought she was doing the right thing, sending out an email every
Oh,
3
because she wasn't
weeks.
making the call.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
that's it, right? It
you know,
was making the call that connected.
the email was meaningless because we were
Mhm.
not connected.
Yeah.
We had never gotten in flow together. Now, here's the thing. One conversation, 2 weeks later, I get her next email. What do I do with it, Carla?
Oh, you noticed it, you know when you got it, and you probably even might have responded.
I actually, read it and said, hey,
Yeah, read it.
responded, nice email.
Yeah.
Got one 3 weeks later, open it up, scanned it, didn't read it word for word.
Yeah.
And yet now we're in flow.
Yeah.
So write this down, guys. It comes from a great author named Susan Scott. And she says she got a book called Fierce
Oh,
Conversations.
yes.
Isn't that great?
It is.
And she says the conversation is the relationship.
Conversation is the relationship.
If I'm really going to be in a relationship with people, I've got to have
Gotta have conversation.
conversations. And so that's kind of that story. Where do you want to go from here, Carla?
Well, I teased him just a little bit with the rescue dogs. Can we talk about you being an author for a minute?
Yeah, if you'll go to Amazon, you can find Rescue Dogs and Real Estate. And it's also on Audible. You can get the paperback, digital book, however you prefer to get your reading. And just go to Amazon.com. And it's a 2.5, 3 hour read. And Rescue Dog and Real Estate is really the story of Never-Ending Referrals.
Mm-hmm.
It's my story kind of brought current, because there's a lot of issues that are same and some that are different. So it's a business fable. It's actually in story form, and it's the journey of an agent who's struggling with a transactional business, always having to chase business, and the market changes to one low inventory, lots of challenges, online leads not paying off the way they were, and he meets a fellow agent at the dog park who's really built a relational business, and she becomes a mentor. And he then, through her, begins a relationship with her coach, who essentially takes him through some fundamental steps to begin to move his business from transactional to relational. And you can be both, but the journey ultimately, if you're going to have a real estate business and not a sales job, is you're going to have to move it from transactional to relational. And here's the magic of it. And this is what the book takes you through, is what that really is like to experience that journey. And it's not an overnight deal, and it requires certain changes of habit and discipline. And so we tell it in story form to help you kind of visualize, maybe that's a journey I want for myself. And if you do, I would read the book, and then, join us in Never-Ending Referrals. We'll help you on the journey with the skills, with the disciplines, with the habits, to make it true for you. Because here's the challenge, Carla, and I experienced this the first few years of my career. You wake up every January 1 at 0.
Mm-hmm.
And your first thought is, oh, heck, can I do it again?
Can I do it again? Is this repeatable?
Yeah. And sometimes the markets shift, and it's, thank God I had 4 years of robust expireds by the time my database was starting to kick in, and I had began to become comfortable working that. All of a sudden that was going away because the market was getting hot. And so thank God I had worked at this. And if I go back and just, wow, think about that feeling you have on January 1 of going, oh, heck, can I do it again? That's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Even if you've done it however many years before, it's still going to be scary.
Well, and then you think, if you really work at this for a couple of years, really building a position of a relationship as a trusted advisor with your database, building a database. See, the stated goal of Never-Ending Referrals is to help you grow your database by 250 or more in the next 12 months and to get a 10% return on it. So if you have 200 people in a database, it should be, 20 deals after about a year. And that's a combination of referral and repeat business. And so this journey is about, how do I get to this place instead of just on January 1, can I do it again, which is a sales job, to getting to that place where in a couple of years on January 1, you know where your first 24, 48, or 148 transactions are coming from, because you've built a predictable business built on a relationship and a position you've built with these people in your database. And that's a business. And so you wake up one day going, dang, I accidentally built a business.
Yeah. And now it's sellable. You have a business that you could sell, the golden handoff or whatever that might look like. You have a business that could be too big for you. And then you get to go to the MREA and start with building a team, and you get to do all those things. And 2 years sounds like a long time, Steve, but along the way, it's not like 2 years and you have nothing, and then you have to wait 2 years and you have something. It's just, that's when it really gets in flow. It's when
you
really
get that 10% return rate, real easily. You can get there within a year.
Yeah.
And you keep your direct prospecting going and things along the journey, because that's helping you build the database. And yet the right actions you can have, in fact, we can go into a conversation. If I gave them a conversation right now, they could have with anybody, even if you're a double-duty agent.
There's the Santa gift. Okay, Santa Steve.
Okay, so
for Christmas.
So here's your gift. Yeah, I wish I had my jingly hat on or something.
Yeah, we'll all imagine.
There you go. It's called it's a simple care conversation. Now, Carla, remind me again, you're in which marketplace?
Indianapolis.
Yeah. And in Indianapolis, just like most parts of the country right now, is the consumer very confused about what's going on in real estate?
Well, yes, because those news people tell funny stories, and then agents that aren't at Keller Williams go on and tell other stories.
Well, there you go. And then, by the way, they hear international stories, local stories. They conflict. They're not sure. The consumer.
No. And they're self-professed experts that aren't real estate agents.
Yeah, that's right. And so here's the conversation. And what can we role play it, Carla?
Sure, I'd love to.
Now, Carla, let's say that you're in my database and you're not in real estate. You're going to be fictitious here.
I like being fictitious.
And we're going to apply Ford to this conversation as well. We're going to do what's called a Ford sandwich. Okay. And we'll explain that in the end. Carla, if I were to go on your social media, what would I see that you've been up to recently?
Oh, I bought a camper. I bought a little scamp, a 13-foot camper, and I've been going camping.
Okay, so you're getting into the camping thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that'll be on there. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go into the conversation. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Carla, Steve Schlueter over at Keller Williams. How you doing?
Oh, hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, absolutely. Anytime you call, I'll take it.
Oh, man. Hey, I had a quick business question for you. Okay. And, just a lot of confusion out there in the real estate market. Thought I'd reach out, shed some light on things, for you. And before I get into that, though, tell me about this camper. I saw on Facebook you bought a camper. What are you getting into here?
Oh, I did. It's a little tiny thing. It's like 13 feet. So only for me. Only for me. This is my time to go off on my own.
Well, where are you going to take it? Where's the first couple of places you're going?
Oh, the state parks. Indiana is just full of state parks, and they are absolutely beautiful. And it's so quiet and peaceful when I do this. So it's really awesome.
So it's kind of zen, right?
Yes,
just get out
absolutely.
And get in nature. Oh, that sounds cool. Well, yeah, I'll be watching your adventures. It sounds like it's going to be fun, Carla.
Well, I hope you like nature pictures, because there's going to be a lot of them.
I do. Well, hey, let me tell you why I called. Like I said, a lot of confusion out there in the real estate space right now. And just curious, what do you know or what are you hearing about the real estate market here in Indy right now?
Oh, the interest rates are really high, right?
Well, they actually are running about 6.7.
Well, that's a lot higher than they just were not a few years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got. By the way, did you happen to secure one of those really good rates?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. What you at?
I'm just right below 3.
Right. Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. So 6 seems high.
What's that?
So that 6 number you gave me seems a little high.
It is by comparison, but what a lot of people don't know, Carla, is historically It's less than 1% above the 30-year average.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, and it's actually below the 50-year average. So
Below. Ooh.
as much as it feels high, it's actually kind of normal.
Well, I guess that makes sense. My first interest rate was 11.5. So I
Yeah,
guess that makes sense to me.
So now that seems like a bargain, right?
It does. Yeah. Sign me up.
But there's, like I said, there's a lot of people that maybe they're not sure of what to do or they're confused. I thought I'd shed some light on it.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah. What's got you watching interest rates, or you just kind of is that just the thing you're noticing right now?
Well, my kids are to the age now where they're thinking about, maybe buying homes, and that interest rate, and, I just hear from them it's too high. So, yeah.
Well, and by comparison, it feels that way. And yet, there's some interesting opportunities in our market right now, especially seasonally. And are they actually kind of getting into that home buying space, you think?
They've been tossing it around, they're those millennials, those,
Well,
or whatever's after the millennials. I don't even know what they call them, but yeah. So they're at that age, right, where they need to, maybe it's mom's pushing them to, and they are open to it, but this is their resistance always. The interest rate's too high.
Often a good step, Carla, is one of the things I offer to do for folks is a no obligation strategy session, just to help them kind of understand the markets, the opportunity, of the market, and, let them decide if it's right for them. There's no obligation. That you think that'd be something they'd be open to?
Oh yeah, I think I should give them that for a Christmas present.
Wow. Or that'd be cool. Or you can connect us via text or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just teasing you, Steve. Yeah.
And I'd be happy to just sit down with them, and that way they're informed, because there's just so much misinformation out there. And Carla, people are going to miss out on a lot of the benefits of home ownership if they're not educated. So how do you want to connect them on that? What would be best, do you think?
Well, you tell me what's easiest for you.
Usually I find if you have a conversation with them and, if they're open to a strategy session, then just connect us via text. And if it's okay, I'll just follow up with you early next week and see how that went if we didn't have a connection.
That sounds great. We're going to have family dinner on Sunday. So I'll talk to them on Sunday, and yeah, that'd be awesome. Great. Oh, thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, what other adventures other than camping are on the horizon for you?
I'm planning my Florida trip. Every January, I go to Florida and sit on the beach. So that's what I got coming up.
That's a great place to be in January for sure. So,
especially when you're in Indiana.
Yeah. Well, do you have any special place in Florida you like to go?
I do. Captiva. Are you familiar with that? The little island off of Fort Myers?
Fort Myers. Okay. I've not been. Sounds pretty cool. Yeah, fantastic. Well, hey, Carla, thanks for taking my call, and I'll check in with you Tuesday or so next week if I haven't heard from you otherwise. Does that sound okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care, Carla.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I love the Ford sandwich.
Ford sandwich.
So what? You asked me about my Facebook, which is my interest. I don't know. Is that FORD? Dreams? No, is that kind of dream? Recreation.
Kind of fit in your recreation.
I turned it into recreation, yes. And if you would have asked me a question about my family, then that would have been an F. Or if I posted about a big award I got at work, maybe for an O. And then at the very end, you asked me what was coming up. That's my D, my dreams.
Yeah, your goals, dreams, something you like to do. And you don't have to ask all the Ford questions. We just essentially did two.
Yeah. Have you ever heard when agents first start practicing? It cracks me up because it sounds like an inquisition.
Yeah.
This is why we practice.
This is the great thing about social media. You get to do some stalking, and it gives you the lead in. But let's go to what I did. And so, Carla,
framework.
I told you there was going to be a business component to the call.
Yes. You told me the purpose.
And so